Do you think like journalism or content writing should be given more importance in the educational curriculums? Because till date, like till today, I had this very vague picture of journalism is like just journalists just create or they just take information from a certain source and they just paraphrase or put it in their own words.
Yeah.
But do you think people need to like kids or the coming up generation needs to focus more on this?
I think so. I
And
actually.
what
Yeah.
role does educational institutes play in this? Even my college had this very minor segment which was called journalism, but I don't think we have reached up to that expectation level or something.
Probably not. I agree with you. In fact, before I started working as a writer, I myself had no idea that there were so many things involved in writing. I also used to think journalism and writing are the same thing. They're not. So, when you're in college, you try to understand the most from a subject, but this is a fact that you don't get like a complete, wholesome knowledge of the field while you're in college. But I genuinely feel like from a school level, writing, at least writing and content writing, should be a compulsion. It not only helps you put your thoughts, like articulate your thoughts properly, but it kind of helps you express yourself better, which helps you in other aspects of life also. So it's not just about like a career in content writing, it helps you clear your mind. And that works in every field, I feel like. So yeah, I mean, I didn't know about the nuances of content writing till I started working, but I would have liked it had it been introduced from a school level. Definitely.
So like while you said you did some crash course on journalism or a separate certification course. So what was the difference between that academic course, academic elective which was given to you as journalism and now you're in your course?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. I mean, while we're in college, we get a very, like a basic understanding of what architectural journalism is, and we get a very bookish knowledge of it. That this is what it is, that is what it is, and it's only a semester, so I feel like that's not enough for you to understand unless you do your own study.
What do you mean by bookish?
I mean very theoretical and very like definition based. It doesn't give you a very clear idea that this is, while you're working in it, this is what to expect. It just gives you like a definitive answer. That's not enough to learn about it. It's just enough to write an exam about it.
While you were doing your journalism course, did you find any like gender ratio difference and any discrimination in your profession? Like, is it more gender specific or gender neutral?
I would say it's very neutral because writing is everybody's cup of tea. I do see a difference in like the...
Not everyone's cup of tea.
No, it is. That's what I'm saying. It is. That had it been introduced in a school level, everybody can articulate it in their own way. So I genuinely personally feel like writing is everybody's cup of tea. It's just not taught from the beginning. Some people have a knack for it to pick it up easier, but everyone can write, I feel like, and everyone should because it helps you form your thoughts better. But I do see a difference from like being a design architect to writing being a content architect, where most girls don't go to site as often as guys do. I know that like that's a very specific thing that I'm saying, but in my experience, I've not seen a lot of girls compared to guys. They're encouraged to go to site and they're encouraged to be with the labours and work late hours. Girls are not encouraged to work late hours. They're actually encouraged to go home at a certain time. I understand it's a safety thing, but it also hinders with the profession because the profession is not going to care about your safety. But when it comes to content writing, it's everybody who wants to express themselves more than, you know, a designer or a site architect.
If you were given a chance to like set up a system where content writing is given an importance, will you take it that opportunity? And if you did, then what were the changes you'd like to bring up?
Yeah, I think I'd like to. Like the teaching part of content writing you're talking about?
Yeah.
I think I'd like to. I think I might be good at it because I'm passionate about it, so I might be able to transfer my knowledge.
But how do you plan to do that?
In a practical sense. So more exercises, more assignments, more skill building rather than theoretical. I don't think giving a presentation on content writing gives anything. Like there's no learning from it. You have to start doing it to learn.
And do you think just getting a basic idea in your college is enough to pursue journalism as your career, or?
It depends on your aptitude. Like I liked the idea of writing, which is why I picked it up in my career. College is enough to give you like an intro that this is what it is. It's not a very accurate intro, honestly, but it's enough to get you started, I think. This is if I'm thinking about it optimistically, otherwise, no, it's not enough.
And how does journalism affect, like, help in improving the public design?
It makes it more accessible because people who are not architects can read about it and understand. You know, they don't understand design drawings and they definitely don't understand working drawings. So if a non-architect were to read about a structure and then learn about it that way, then they can relate with that design more. So it's more about like neutralizing architecture for everyone, not just for architects. That's the main goal.
In general, I'm not talking about architecture. Let it be, if you have a product, for example, you take this pen as a product. So I think product design and the experience here is also a lot more problems. How does your content will help? So according to my knowledge, I think it's only the part of marketing where it is like catering people to like show them this is the product. Just advertising and marketing. What else it serves?
It serves an educational use. The whole point of marketing is to educate a customer, potential customer, that this is a product that you need and here's why. So it's educational and those who are interested will end up purchasing it. So.
And what do you think? How much impact does advertising has on public?
Advertising is a completely different ball game. That is with a very promotional purpose. So it depends.
You think even content writing is also a promotional purpose?
No, it's not.
How?
It's purely educational, informative. If you're talking about advertising and writing for advertising, then that's promotional. Content writing is not.
So do you have different styles for different product or categories in content writing?
When you're doing an architectural text, you again try to keep it as generic as possible, and you try to keep it as you try to complicate it as little as possible. What ends up happening with architecture writing for the most part is you try to put too many adjectives and describe too many feelings that you don't let the reader form their own feelings. So if you make it as simple as possible, set the premise, start large scale, then go context wise. So start where it is, what the intent is, then zoom into maybe city level, and then zoom into locality, and then zoom into typology. And then you talk about the physical appearance of the building, and then you zoom into interiors. So you literally have to imagine that you're looking at something from like a satellite view, and then you get as close as you can. So you start, that's the general structure of how you write. And while you're describing it, this is a mistake that I've also made multiple times, where don't describe it much. Just describe its basic stuff, describe how you would see it visually, and then let your audience form their opinion if they think it's beautiful or not. Like if you only go and say it's a beautiful building, there's little left to imagination. So
does using complicated words help?
Never helps. It doesn't help anyone.
So if you were given a project, an architectural project, so how would you take it? Like do all the writers have their own different styles?
Yes. Writers have their signature styles. I can't give you an example because I don't know of like any example that I can give you right now.
No, you can explain, like you can tell me how it differs, like two styles.
It all depends on the sort of person you are, what kind of writing you do. So if you are the kind of person who is optimistic by nature, your writing style tends to reflect that. And if you're a person who is very like cut and dry facts by nature, your writing style reflects that. Again, writing is very subjective, especially if you're describing something, you're writing a long form text. Short form, you can't show your personality much, but in long form, it's very evident who has written it. So in terms of tonality and in terms of maybe friendliness, how well you can explain it, it all depends on how well you understood it, that you've put it into words and explained. So you don't have to be a very good writer to write well. You just need to know how to explain things to people properly. So if you get that on point and you get your grammar on point, your text is sorted.
So till now, what was your worst experience?
In writing?
In writing.
I would have to say, as silly as it sounds, social media captions are very difficult to write. Like, I prefer writing long form content. I think it's easier, Social media captions, you really have to become a different person when you're writing each thing. So you kind of have to like act like you're in a certain way and then write. So I'm still trying to understand the tonality difference in social media. That is the very difficult. And that is mostly the ones where if you have a client, your client is going to suggest changes.
So what is a typical day in life of a content writer looks like? How much time they spend on writing?
On the system.
On the system.
24 hours. No. So a content writer's thing, it depends on what sort of content you're doing for that day. Suppose if you're writing a newsletter that day, your day might go in researching layouts of newsletter, design wise, and then you'll think of what content you want to put. And then newsletters usually have something called a CTA, a call to action. So what kind of call to action you want to give. If you put too many buttons on your newsletter, your reader will get confused. You put too little, they'll get confused. You have to hit that sweet spot, the right amount of buttons, the easiest design to follow, such that they won't unsubscribe from you. So you have to keep very conscious that you shouldn't be annoying, shouldn't be irritating, and you shouldn't explain too much. No one's going to read so much. So your content also should be good visually and textually also.
So doing all this, you might need a team. Like, what is the structure of a team or an office in content writing?
You have one person setting the strategy, the general framework. You have one person doing the text, which is your content writer, one graphic designer to work with the content writer, and one person again to overview, just in general, like a fresh pair of eyes. So generally, all of these people should have each other's skills for the most part. Of course, something that a graphic designer does, obviously a content writer can't do. But you have to have an understanding internally that, this is the kind of graphic I'm trying to show with my text. Not everything has to be words, right? Sometimes your words can be a graphical symbol or something. Easier to understand, interpret, comprehend. So you have to have these main people covering the larger aspects, and that's about it in a content writer's office. Writing is like, honestly, the last part you do. Your framework and your graphics have to be good.
If a freshie like me wants to start writing content, then what do I have to do? Or you can say, like, when you were fresher, how did you start?
Yeah. I can tell you what I did. It might help you. While I was in college, I was interested in writing as it intrigued me. I didn't know if I was good at it or not. I had a blog on the side, but it wasn't professional or anything. It was just like a hobby of mine. And I read somewhere that journaling is good for the soul. So I was like, okay, let's try making it a profession. I don't know how it'll work. So in 2020, in the pandemic, I joined an architectural journalism workshop. I did not know what I was getting into. All I knew is I'll find out what this is about. And then I met a lot of people like me who are confused about the field, who don't know what writing is about, and they are here to learn more than learn about writing. They're here to learn what it is. And the person who was mentoring our workshop also had gone through the same thing. So it was such a relief for us that as architects, we were confused about what writing is, even though we were interested in it. Then in that writing workshop, we learned about how social media plays a big impact on people and how our writing can influence them, on what is long form writing, what is short form writing. Just a general overview of everything. Again, not enough to learn, but enough to get more interested in learning. So the workshop was my first step into writing. After the workshop was done, I took my blog more seriously. I read more. I used to consciously read things on design portals. And I used to consciously read Instagram captions. Why are they saying what they're saying? What is a hashtag? What is an SEO? Why are people using this here and there? How often do you post? Even that's very important. And then last year, I made the official switch to content writing because I was honestly done with being an architect, like a design architect. And I wasn't very good at it. So I kind of needed to find something I was better at or something I would be willing to learn. I wasn't willing to learn how to be a better design architect. So I think that's one more thing that contributed. With writing, I was more interested and more enthusiastic to be wrong. So I was like, let's try. And then I just sent my blog as a portfolio. Usually people have writing portfolios where you put your story samples. If you've done an interview with someone, you put that. Any form of writing. It can be like a really good poem you've written. It can be a really good caption you wrote. Any form of writing that shows who you are as a writer and how well you can understand the assignment. So I gave that as a submission and I got through. And my actual learning started when I got the job. That's when I learned what a content writer's job is. I didn't even know what my job would be, but I was willing to explore. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.